Hopefully you can hear me now. Hope this has worked. I hope you can hear me. Right, okay, there's a little bit of a delay in the comments. Okay, so basically we're trying out some new software today, which allows us to stream directly into the club. So if you bear with 1 second, we'll try and get that working. Unfortunately, I think the answer is probably no. Which, not to worry, we want to persevere. I hope everyone's well. If I just add this to the stream. Hopefully you can still hear me. Hopefully that's not to change anything, but hopefully you can see as well what we're doing today. Basically just looking at some workshop accessories to go with the LX314, which I painted up last week, which is quite a nice looking little building. It's a nice little just workshop thing. Not finished yet, as you can see. Need to finish off painting everything else, the roof, walls inside. A couple of little things, but I thought I'll make a start on getting some detailing parts done for it. So if you spare us 1 second while I still try and get it to work in the club. Unfortunately, I don't think it is going to work. No. Okay, not to worry. We'll abandon that. So it looks like we can't stream directly into the club. Not to worry, we'll carry on. We'll persevere. We just right, get myself sorted. So like I say, today we're looking at some detailing bits to go into the engineering workshop. These will go anywhere, not just in the workshops. These are quite handy to have around garden sheds, motor power depots, TMDs, refueling points, anything really. They're quite versatile little kits. Anyway, you'd find these, they're great for. So what we got gas bottle cages, electrical circuit equipments, workshop shelving, workbenches, trestle tables, engineering tools, and mesh-sided stylages. So we're not going to get through all of them. Obviously, there's quite a few today. I suppose we're just going to work from the top, work our way down, and see how far we get. All of these are, I suppose you say, blind runs. I've not looked at any of these kits yet. I've not built any of them in the past either, so it could be interesting. So this is the LX182 mesh-sided stylages. Quite a tongue twister to say. Looks like we've got a main construction sprue and then detailing interiors. Just have a little look how they go together. Quite simple instructions. Don't need many tools for this today. File, knife that should be probably quite a bit sharper, rule, and some tweezers. Don't need much more than that, apart from, of course, our Look Materials laser cut kit glue, which is really good stuff, highly recommended. I'll always swear by that. It's the only glue I use for our products. Right, so it looks like so we have a base, fold them up, glue these on, and then glue these parts over the top to give it the depth. Cool. Let's have a go. Yeah, this knife is pretty disgusting. Needs replacing. I've got some spare blades, just need to get myself to do it. Normally the case. So just releasing these 4 sides, and we'll release the endy bits as well. Just one simple move holding these in place. There we go. Nice and easy to release. And then we'll release. Looks like we've got 4 of these to do, 1 for each side, and they're held in that way. 2 loads either side. There's 1. There's 2. There's, oops, that one's got a bit bent, no matter, we pull that back out again. And there's the last one. Pigging everywhere, hopefully not into the carpet monster. Okay, so that looks like about all the parts we need for this kit. So we need to score along these lines and hold them down. So with your knife, don't cut through, you just use it a bit. There's one score. There's the next. Looks like we're folding these up 90 degrees. Fold them past, so when they spring up, they fold to 90. Just give them a little pinch. There we go, nice and simple. Then glue the outers on, and we need the, I suppose you call them, what would you call these as opposed to them? They're open sides, they've got a closed side. So if you can see, I'll bring them up a bit closer. If I can. These are very delicate, you need to watch out for these, they're bending quite a bit. Oh, that one's ripped actually. Hopefully I can salvage that part. But they are quite delicate, so you have to be careful with these. So you got open and close, I suppose you call it maybe. Not too sure, but we need these for the folded parts. On the extra horizontal. Might have been better to glue these on while it was flat, thinking about it. And it looks like they go on that way. Try and bring this a bit closer so you can see. Yep, looks like they glue on just like that. Quite nice and simple. In fact, I'm going to fold this out again. No, I'm not, because I'm going to get glue on the legs and they won't fold up. Right, so a little bit of glue across the middle, across the bottom, and just a bit down the verticals with a little emphasis on the top. Take the side piece with the legs at the bottom and the thicker parts. And then carefully position it over the kit, over the mesh side, so everything lines up. And then once you're happy, just give it a little press home, and hopefully you can see. Maybe you can't see. No idea how well that's focusing. Hopefully it looks all right. So we've got 50 odd people watching, which is great. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone's having a good week. If you've got any questions, fire them away in the chat. If you're commenting on Facebook, I probably won't be able to see them. So if you definitely want your question or comment seen, head over to YouTube. That's the best place to leave it. That's only because of the privacy settings on some of the Facebook pages. It's best to just go onto YouTube and leave a comment. More chance of me seeing it then. So exactly the same again. Bead of glue down the horizontals. Thin bead down each vertical. Then the legs at the bottom. Do the same. This laser cut kit glue does give you a little bit of working time. So it's quite handy for just tweaking into position, but there we go. Hopefully you can see that. We've got the legs protruding from the bottom there. Awesome. Next, we need to glue the sides onto the sides. Do the same, but for the third and fourth side. It's like my explanation is probably really bad there. So on the mesh sides, the legs aren't legs, don't let them do that for you. So they stick upwards, and on these, the leg looking pieces stick downwards. That's bent a bit, but that will straighten out when we glue it, so don't worry about that. So all we're going to do, bead of glue there, another one running up there, very fine amount at the top, and an equally fine amount on the bottom. Looks a bit like shredded wheat, this kit. Or shreddies, whatever they're called. Okay, so making sure we get everything the right way around with the correct sticky out bits in the correct way, and then just tweezing that little bent piece back out so we glue straight. There we go. And make sure that's all lined up, which it is now. If you use a more sparing amount of glue, you get more work though as well. Just make sure everything's more or less lined up, which it isn't quite on this end, but I'm willing to let that go. It's not quite perfect, but rather it be not quite perfect than a bit broken. And it's so small and you can hardly really tell. So I'll quickly do the next one, again with the node sticking up on the shredded wheat part and the leg sticking down on this one. This one is actually broken, this extra detail we're putting on. I don't think you can really tell, but there's a little bit of a tear in it. That's just my sloppy cutting, so hopefully that will be rectified when we glue it in place. Again, tiny bit of glue down top and bottom. I really need a pair of tweezers to hold this. I just glue it, that'll make life easier. There we go. And then position this over the top. And then just gently tweeze it into place. And you can't even tell it's ripped because the glue just masks that completely, which is perfect. If you were doing this in your own time, I do recommend filing it down a bit because there are some burrs left over from where I've cut it. Obviously, I'm not going to bother doing that now because they're too small to see on camera, but if you're doing this for your own layout, I'd recommend just taking a simple flat-sided file, jeweler's file, and just filing it down like that. That's what you have to do. But that's entirely optional. They are very small to see. So in theory, now all we do is stick these together. Just doing a dry run, see how it goes, and yeah, that's it. So I'm going to take the folded piece, and I'm going to hold it with some pliers, tweezers even, glue down the horizontal a bit more than I did for the other parts, glue down the vertical, got them the wrong way around, pinch it together, lay it flat on the top. I suppose the first one's quite difficult because it's wanting to bend against itself. We're forcing it to do something it doesn't want to do. So just bend it and hold it. This is where a little jig will come in handy. If you've got an SX002 to hand, that will be really useful for this. Just so you can press it up against and get a nice 90-degree angle. Hopefully once the glue goes off, it'll sort of hold itself, and then we can run a bead of glue down the inside just to send it home. So applying pressure just to pinch it together. The glue has kind of gone off, but I'm just going to add another little more blob in each corner, at the top and at the bottom, just to make sure that sets in place. So now we've got a three-sided mesh storage container, which is just coming apart on me. So I'm just going to pinch that together a bit longer. Now it's not very fun watching glue dry on camera, but it needs to be done. Hopefully that's set enough. Hopefully when we get the last side in, it sort of holds itself together a bit better. So again, same again, I'm going to hold it down with a pair of pliers, tweezers, just to make it easier to glue. Quite a bit of glue down the verticals, and another nice piece on the horizontal. So good morning everyone that's just tuned in. We've got a lot of people watching from all over the world today. I've already seen quite a few comments pop up from Australia, New Zealand, Portugal. We are really quite a global club, which is amazing. Right, so that's in situ. Let's press it down a little bit just to get it in place. Let the glue go off, not going to touch it much. Going to hold it and just leave it to go off a bit. And then I'll run some glue all the way around the inside. In fact, I think I'll do it from the bottom, just to make sure everything's set. Excuse me, set in as it should be. I think that's got off now, so flip it over. And then just run some glue along the seam from the bottom, from the rear. And like I say, hopefully that will just cement it in place. And then if you want as well, just a roll of glue down the top portion of each corner. And once that's gone off, that should be a pretty solid kit. Now, of course, if you wanted to paint this, I would best recommend using some car primer from a rattle can, just giving it a couple of coats of that, and of course, that will bind it together even more. So you don't need to worry about this falling apart on your layout. Once you've primed it, it should be pretty solid and not go anywhere. Hopefully you can see that. It's quite a nice detailed little kit. In fact, let's get I've got a book to hand, that should make it easy to see. If you'll focus on that. Hopefully you can see that. This camera's a bit rubbish at focusing, but you have to take my word for it. It's quite a nice little detailed kit. And I think it only costs about £5-6. And you get, how many do you get in a pack? You get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in a pack. So plenty to detail a little scene that you're doing. So it's quite a good value for money. Quite a nice detailed kit for how easy it is to put together as well. I don't think I'm going to look at these today because, well, I'll show you them, but I don't think I'm going to really do anything with them because, as you can see, these are paint only. You don't need to assemble these because they already are assembled, really. You just paint them and position them. So hopefully they focus a bit. We've got quite a number of tools there. You've got saws, spanners, crowbars, screwdrivers, wrenches, paintbrushes, chisels, scrapers. You've got quite a lot of different various tools. And Justin's just joined us in the chat, so good morning, Justin. Hope you're well. As you can see, they're quite a nice little detailed kit. And paint them up, plonk them on your workbench, and you're laughing then, aren't you? You've got the really nice little extra details that are very simple. We just paint and stick them on. So next we're looking at the LX314 trestle tables. These are multitude of uses. I've seen these used on steam sheds for working on locos. Obviously they're great for garden sheds and anything of the like. Various other depots and workbenches. So it looks to be quite a simple, straightforward kit. Just release a couple of parts. I think there's these you need to release. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 in a kit. do like to recommend as well, it always seems to work better releasing them from the rear side. It does seem to work quite well as opposed to cutting in from the way the laser cuts in. We'll have to tidy that piece up a bit. It's a little bit messy. That's just my blunt knife. Sometimes quite difficult to locate the holding points, the nodes on these, but I think fairly simple, one per item. If we can just tease him out. Don't think I've quite cut through that. This seems to be a much thicker material than the last kit. It's a lot tougher. There we go. Nearly there, two more. There we go. So in theory, once these have been released, there we go. That's everything we need for this kit. And like I say, I'm just going to take a flat George file to the top piece and just give it a little clean, just to make sure that the edge is all nice and tidy. And also take it from the file from the rear as well, just to get rid of any blips that have been caused by you filing. A little bit rough around the edges, but of course these will always be rough around the edges. So it looks like we glue these parts on first, which have the little slot in them. They go into the rear of the table. Nice and simple. So a little bit of glue either side of said slot. And then tweezers might be handy on this, since it's quite small and fine. Or tweezers might make it a bit worse. So if you get a nice shot of the top of my head, oh, went in a lot easier than expected. Normally these can be a little bit stiff, but that went straight in, which was great for us. And then the next one. So there you go, we've got two little undersides of the cable in. And then we take these parts, the A-frame legs, and we glue these two in. So it should be nice and simple, same sort of process, either side of the locating pin. I'm not going to go for tweezers this time because these are quite a bit bigger to hold. There's one. And here should be the second. Easy as that. Then all we do is the opposite, so we add some glue onto the end of these parts. And then we add the opposite A-frame leg support. So apologies if you get my head in shot. This could be the tricky part, is getting the last piece in. Don't glue it to yourself. There we go, I think that's in. That is in. Tweezers just to move him out of the way. And then a little bit of glue because that's since dried. Make sure you glue them the right way up as well, don't glue them upside down. make sure that goes. There we go. Nice and simple. Hopefully you can see. I'm just going to pinch them at the bottom just to make sure the legs go straightish. And all we do is flip the table upside down, decide where these are going to go over the ends. So there's a little bit of a cutout on the underside, what the previous part there and there. That's where we're gluing the legs in. So a little bit of glue on each slot. Position it over. Hopefully we can get these to go in. Might need a little bit of coaxing. Like we've got one, but the second one isn't quite wanting to go. Which isn't very cricket. There we go. That looks to be into me. Just straighten them out, make sure they're nice and straight, and then once you're happy with the position, add a little bit more glue onto all the joints that we have since glued, just to make them a little bit extra solid. So now turn it around and do the other side. And how long has this been? We've been live for about 20 minutes if you include the faffing at the start. And we've already built 2 yard detailing kits, which is pretty good going. These kits are quite simple, straightforward to put together. Even with someone of my ability, or my lack of ability, should I say. So just tweezing that into place, making sure we're happy with the position. Doesn't have to be perfect. I don't think builders or workshop engineers would lose that much sleep over an imperfect trestle. And just straighten it up, give it a little pinch, and then use a little bit of glue on the joints we've previously glued, just to give them a little bit of extra bite. And then we're done. As simple as that. We have a lovely looking, highly detailed trestle, which will be an absolutely perfect candidate to paint up weather, make look really grubby, and then stick a load of these on, which would work really well. Steve's saying it would be very useful if you had a piece of black cardboard to show us the fine detail of models instead of trying to show us using green cutting board or skin tone. Yeah, I don't think I have anything to hand that is black in colour. I will see if Justin might have a piece of black card that I can borrow on a long-term, no-return basis. But yeah, I'll find out. I'll see if I can have one from Justin. He might have something like that. Anyway, so that's the second kit of the day done. Nice, simple trestle table. Very easy to build, super easy to paint up and weather. Be great practice for anyone wanting to have a look at weathering, painting their first kits. It's dead cheap. I think it's about £5 or £6 for that kit, and you get 10 per in the kit, which gives you 10 chances to get it right and 10 opportunities to learn new practices, which is brilliant. Okay, something a bit more complex now, which is the workbench. So what else we've got to do. Don't think we'll get everything done, but we're going to make a good headway. This kit is bowing a bit, but that shouldn't be an issue once we get going. I'm just going to have a drink, if you excuse me 1 second. Sorry if I was really loud on the microphone. Right. Again, I haven't necessarily seen this kit before. Okay, looks like very simple to me. So we need to cut out piece A and B, which is the top piece with the leg holes in. Let's go from the underside. So that's piece A, and piece B are the legs. That was quite not a clean, dirty cut. So I might have to clean that piece up a bit. That's the vice detail, which we can leave for later. That's going to be a test of skill, doing that on camera. And there's one leg. And here comes the second. Let's get rid of detail stuff inside, don't want that just yet. Super. Right, so we have the leg pieces that we need. Looks like there is no bottom necessarily. Looks like we're just gluing these straight in. Don't know any right or wrong way how to do this. Just a fairly nice amount of glue. Hold the piece down, a pair of tweezers, and then with the shorter ended legs into the locating holes, and then just press it down. At a relatively 90-degree angle. Try and make sure that's gluing straight. Yep, that looks about right to me. I was going to run a bead of glue down the inside just to, like I say, give it a little bit more bite, something to hold on to, make sure it glues straight. Cool, and now we're going to do the next one. Just all the way down the middle, between the locating holes. Oops. Silence the concentration. This one's not wanting to go in. Is it in? I don't know. I can't pick it up because it's so fine. Come here. Okay, it is in, but it's not going straight. So all we need to do is just make sure we're happy-ish with how that looks. Once we're happy-ish, I might actually use the pliers, insert them between the legs, and then just sort of use them to hold them out. I think this is where the longer glue tip will come in handy. Just make sure they're square. I'm probably putting too much emphasis on this because they're only workbenches, but that is no excuse for imperfection. And there we go, that looks just about right to me. And we'll set these off over to one side to set. Right, so we now we're gluing part C onto the rear of the legs, which is this piece, I think. Double check. Yep, so that's the short, smaller looking flat top with 4 cutouts on each corner. So that glues into the bottom of the trestles, which if I had read on and known that, I wouldn't have spent so much time making sure they were perfect, because this will force it into position. So I now don't mind if these aren't in position. How am I going to do this? I'm going to flip them correct way up, I'm going to run a bead of glue down the inside of each horizontal bar of the legs. I've got too much glue coming out of this applicator at the moment, which is annoying. And then I'm going to try my best to sort of coax these into position, which is probably going to be quite difficult on camera. So I do apologise about this. This probably isn't the most entertaining thing to watch, especially with me looking them up. So let's go in from the side like this. There we go. Best way to do it is to go in from the side at a sort of like a 45-degree angle and then fold it flat down, using some tweezers to help. And hopefully you can see that. A little bit of excess glue, that's fine, not going to lose any sleep over that. There we got the bottom shelving, which gives it a lot of support and makes it sure that it stays straight and level. So now that's in, now we need to decide if we're doing a woodworking bench or a metal workbench. Since I'm doing lots of metal work at the moment, I'm going to go for that option. In case you didn't know, this top piece will make a metal workbench, and these two pieces either side will make a wood workbench. Woodworking benches have a cutout along the full length through the middle, which allows you, make it easier to, I suppose, do woodwork. But for a metal workbench, you want a fully flat surface. But I've been doing a lot of loco building recently. A lot of metal work, a lot of soldering, so I'm in the mood for a metal workbench. Very simple. All we need to do is release that piece. We should probably give it a little file since this is going to be most on show. So just clearing up the edges like that. Just a little adjustment. And then I'm just going to glue the top piece. Like that. David Chandler saying, all we need now is a vise. Hold your horses there, David. We will come to the vices shortly. The good thing about this kit is it actually comes with vices. You have the option to glue them in place. So there we go. So hopefully now, if I can actually show you some of the detailing parts. Try and show you on this piece if I can. So we do actually have, this is the woodwork inside, but in between we do have one type of vise, which is the much more less intrusive type. I'm not sure what you call them. We've got the big metal ones here, and some detailing parts there. So we do have vices to use actually. It could be quite interesting building some of these vices on show, but we'll have a go. So if you just give us 1 second to read the instructions. So it looks like, yeah, okay, so it looks like the more or less intrusive vice, that one, that's the wooden one. That will have a wooden clamp, so not to ruin the woodwork you're doing. But these are metal, much more sturdy and better for metalwork, or metallurgy, I believe it's called. So we're going to have a look at these ones, which I could very much regret saying because these look way more fiddly than the woodwork ones. But we'll give it a go. Locate where the holding nodes are, which ever so tiny, and adjust that. There's one. Take it out. There's the other. And we've got this happy chap in the middle. Right. I do sometimes find that these are easier to read look at the pictures and the instructions rather than read them. But it looks like all we do is glue these together, back to back, the two sides. Now there is a right way. They do have details on one side and not the other. So all I'm going to do, hopefully you can see, I'm going to put a tiny, tiny amount of glue onto one side and sort of just slide the other half over the top, and then just position them so they appear as one piece, which is easier said than done on such a small number. There we go. I think that is the first. Oh, there's no way the camera's going to pick that up. Oh well, I'll try and take some photos today and post them on the club so you can see what I'm actually doing. And I think this piece just goes in between. By the looks of it. Or was that base? Hang on. I am confused here. That might go there. Or does it go there? Let's read the instructions. Cut out the small vice jaw rectangle H and glue into place as shown. Which part's H? Have I just done that? Yep. Let me add the base. I'm not sure where the base goes. I think the base goes around there, which I appreciate on such a small piece of work like this. You've probably got no idea what I'm looking at or pointing to. It must be quite hard for me to explain this. But I think that looks about correct. Problem is on the photo it's been painted sort of like a grey colour, which doesn't make it easy to see what goes where. No, I think that goes, it must go there. Right, okay. I know what I'm doing, but unfortunately these parts are so small, I've got no way of showing you what I'm doing. But the little base part, I believe, goes at the rear. But on the photos, it looks like it could go elsewhere, but it makes sense to me if we stick it here. But it could be quite challenging to get this to sort of stay in the correct position. That looks like it could look about right. There we go. Hopefully I can show you this. I'm going to try it at least. So on our little vice number here, the base, which is this part down the bottom left, pliers, hopefully you can see it goes to the back of the vice, not the front. I believe that's the case anyway. and then we simply glue it on. Okay, so a tiny blob of glue on the top of the workbench where we want it to go. Then pick up the vise from the bird's eye position so we can correctly position it. Sorry if I'm going silent, this is quite fiddly. That looks to be about right to me. I've just realised, I think you should go like that instead. Just a little change of mind on where the base should go, I think. I think it goes in a more middle position. That looks a bit better when it's actually in place. Also, I've probably just realised it's probably a lot easier to glue the base part on separately to the rest of the vise and then glue the rest of the vise onto the base while it's on the table. Because the base is quite small. So it's probably a bit better to do it that way. Come on, stick. Don't stick to my fingers, stick to the glue. That's the problem with when you're building a kit for this long. Normally, I would have washed my hands about 5 times in this amount of time, but I can't really do that on a live stream. So it's sticking to me more than the item. If you wash your hands, there's less chance of it sticking to you. That's about right to me. So all we need now is the handle for the vise, which is this tiny part in the middle. I believe it's actually meant for the wood vise, but it'll probably look quite smart here as well. So just turn it upside down, blob of glue around the centre. And again, it's wanting to stick to me more than the glue. There we go. Come on. Get into place. Well, it's at a bit of an angle, but hopefully, once that's set, you can see we have a little vise. I don't think this is focusing very well at all. The camera never seems to be able to pick up the smaller detail, which is quite annoying, but someone did comment saying that I should get a piece of black card and that might help, so I'll look into that. But there we are, a nice little workbench. So in the space of 40 odd minutes, we have a workbench, some stylos, and a trestle table, which I think is pretty good going. In fact, let's just
add my zoom back onto this.
Remember to mute one of them. Right. So I was meant to be having a look at these, but I don't think we'll have time today. Time is pressing on, and these are slightly more complex than the others. Well, we have our looks at it anyway, but I will save these and I'll probably use these as build guides for the Rail Modelers Club. In case you joined us too late and don't know what I'm doing today, I was building up some detailing parts to go with the small engineering workshop, which I built and painted last week on our last live stream. So hopefully some of these just gives you an idea of what you can fit in and around a workshop. I know some of these are actually really nicely detailed kits, especially this workbench with vise. So hopefully everyone's enjoyed that live stream. Like I say, I'm sorry I haven't had time to get more done, but I think that little vise took longer than I expected, and the other kits are a bit more complex than the rest. But I'll post some photos of this on the Royal Modelers Club for everyone to see if you're interested. And I'll also post photos of the little numbers we've been working on today. But I hope everyone's had a good experience today. Learned something, and I've learned something. And that is that these little parts are a lot fiddlier, a lot more time consuming than we'd like to believe. But I'll leave it there for today. I hope everyone's having a good week so far, and I'll speak to you all later. Goodbye, everyone, and I'll speak to you in a bit. See you for now.